honest, a lot of people who buy Birkins and Kellys, they don't actually care about Hermes. They don't know anything about Hermes, but they're buying into the hype. Same with the Supreme t-shirts. A lot of people buy those t-shirts not because they're a skater boy, it's because they want to buy something that is hyped and that says Supreme and that they saw on Kanye West or K Moss or whoever. That's the thing, guys. When it comes to fashion, you have to stay true to yourself, and you have to sometimes think, am I just getting sucked into hype? Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Jess. Firstly, I just want to say thank you so much, Katie, for gifting me these Hello Kitty toys. My lovely subscriber, Katie, reached out to me and wanted to send me these little Hello Kitties, and they're limited edition. A little kangaroo here, and it says Australia, and a koala bear. They are just way too adorable, and it's for the Hello Kitty 50th anniversary Australia limited edition, and I think they will look so cute on my new Vert Yucca Birkin because it's in Australian colours, gold and green, so that would be so cute together. Although I feel like they're so cute that I don't want to like take them out of the plastic, so I kind of just want to keep them all pristine. But yeah, oh my gosh, they are just too adorable. So thank you so much, Katie. I absolutely love them. Today I wanted to talk about whether hype marketing is over or whether it's effective anymore. You know, over the years, things have come and gone in popularity. I think a lot of the Louis Vuitton collaborations, Supreme collection was super popular back in the day when Jeffree Star used to unbox his like Gucci bags and luggage. That whole vibe around having an extravagant lifestyle and having, you know, stacks of VCA bracelets and all that. That hype culture is starting to become less of a novelty as it was before, and perhaps less appealing. And I wanted to talk about today the future of fashion, and also how do you guys think it's gonna end up, because I know recently there's been a lot of news about these big luxury brands suffering a little bit at the moment. If you look at Burberry, their stocks plummeted 30% at the start of the year, and a lot of people lost their jobs. And who knows, guys, maybe another big conglomerate will come along and then also swoop up Burberry, because I was thinking about Supreme today and how popular it was back in like 2017, 2018. I went to Japan a few years ago, and the Supreme store was so busy and people were lining up for these little like red box placement t-shirts. And there was just so much hype around it, and I didn't understand it at the time. But the reason why Supreme was so successful back in the day is because they had this huge community, a huge cult following, and it was like when streetwear and really casual dressing started to become really popular. And Supreme, they collaborated with, as I said, Louis Vuitton, they collaborated with Burberry, and it was a huge success at the time. But as of recently, I haven't heard much from Supreme in terms of a fashion brand. Most certainly, I feel like those hype sneakers and, you know, hype brands like Supreme have lost popularity on a mainstream level. Perhaps their like resale value and all that as well doesn't come into play as much as it once did. And it's very interesting that Supreme has recently been bought out by Luxottica, which is like one of the biggest, well, I think it is the biggest sunglasses manufacturer, retailer in the world. So Luxottica owns Sunglass Hut, and if you go to Sunglass Hut, they stock pretty much every single brand of sunglasses. They have licenses with Chanel and Prada, you know, Miu Miu, as well as they actually designed Chanel sunglasses for Chanel, and they have rights to use their logos. But you know, they also own big brands like Oakley, and now they've just bought Supreme, this very popular streetwear brand, for a bit over $1 billion, I believe. And I will be interesting to see how this affects the brand of Supreme, because I feel like, you know, they were in a position a few years ago where it didn't seem like they would have to sell their brand, but perhaps their brand hasn't been as popular as it once was, and it could now evolve into a more mainstream, I guess, and easy to access brand, whereas before they used to make things in smaller drops. As it became more popular, I think that it was easier to buy Supreme things, and that lack of exclusivity with the brand, I think, is what was also at its demise. And when you think about the story of Supreme and how it became so hyped and it had such a cult following, and then looking at it now and how it's now recently been bought out by Luxottica and perhaps it's going to evolve into something else, it makes me question whether this hype marketing strategy is something that is good long-term for a brand, because it seems like brands, they become trends and then they kind of fizzle out after a long time. And even if you look at luxury brands, they were super popular the last few years. You know, I'm going to say between 2015 to 2020, before the pandemic, they were booming. You know, the prices kept going up and people were spending all their money on these luxury brands. But recently there's been a huge trend on YouTube to rebel against luxury brands, to boycott them, that you're not stylish if you're wearing a designer logo, that you're being sucked into, you know, spending thousands of dollars, you're wasting your money. Not to mention that it seems like the quality of these brands have gone down dismally over the years as well, which is definitely deterring people from buying these brands. But going back to Supreme, I do think that the fact that Luxottica have now bought them is going to affect the appeal of their brand a little bit, because if you look at like a brand like Oakley, Oakley was actually bought out by Luxottica a while back for a few $1 billion as well, and Oakley was a brand that didn't want to be bought out by Luxottica. Now, the reason why Luxottica managed to buy Oakley is because they stocked Oakley sunglasses in their stores. And because Oakley was, wanted to keep their stocks and they didn't want to sell out to Luxottica for a temporary amount of time withdrew from stocking or refused to stock Oakley sunglasses in their stores. And this actually affected Oakley stocks on the stock market significantly, and it made everyone started selling their stock because Oakley as a brand became less valuable, and Luxottica ended up buying the majority of their stocks for a few $1 billion, and that's how they got ownership of Oakley. Now, if you look at Oakley now, they are pretty oversaturated. Like if you go to one of their stores, they have tons of t-shirts for dirt cheap. The sunglasses, they kind of like, they're very innovative. They have very strong design and they're super practical. But as a brand, it has been cheapened down and watered down quite significantly. And it is sad that they've kind of gone down that route where I guess a big brand like Luxottica has been able to just, milk them for everything that they have kind of thing. So I wonder if Supreme will go into a similar direction where they're really overproduced and they're thus losing their appeal in a way, because if you think about a few years ago with Supreme, it's night and day. Like the hype around Supreme was like insane, and I didn't really understand it myself because I wasn't a part of that community, but I thought it was very interesting to observe. And I also noticed it a lot with brands like Human Made, and in Japan as well, there was like a big line outside for the Human Made store because they had like these special drops at special times, and there was that kind of exclusivity. And I think a lot of the appeal of luxury as well is that it's hard to get. You can't get your hands on it. You have to wait for this certain time, or there's only going to be limited amounts available. And I think that is why Louis Vuitton did collaborate with brands like Human Made, and they collaborated with Supreme because they had the same kind of appeal to them, the same kind of cult following. But once something becomes oversaturated and it becomes easier to get, and it's not like that exciting anymore, the novelty has worn off, it becomes undesirable basically. So what I'm saying is that, with Supreme, we can learn a lot from their story and how the hype of their brand has played out over the years. Something like Louis Vuitton is also, like a brand like Louis Vuitton, I feel like at the moment is also going through a similar thing. They like to create these collections which seem very desired, very exclusive, very hard to get. You need to pre-order it. Like, for example, some of Pharrell's P9 Speedies, which are, over 13,000 Australian dollars or something. They're making out there, they're very hard, they're numbered, they're limited, and yet he's releasing a rainbow of colors every season, and it makes me question, what is the future of Louis Vuitton? Are they really, they to me seem like they're definitely overproducing. And what do brands do with their stock when they've overproduced? Well, they either go to outlets, they go to star sales, and allegedly some brands even destroy their stock to keep the brand image intact. And a lot of people are realizing this and waking up and thinking, you know, what are we actually paying for? Is it really worth buying a Dior book tote for a few $1,000s when they're manufactured for $57 or something like that? You know, people are really starting to question that, and whether this hype is something that we really want to play into anymore. I also think that over the years, a lot of us have become less naive when it comes to designer fashion. And I really miss the time where I was naive towards designer fashion, and I would look in a window and it would be like, wow, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, so amazing. And to a degree, I'm still like that with Hermes bags. I'm definitely like that with Hermes bags. Like, if you saw me unbox my recent Birkin 25, I'm definitely hypnotized by the designer brands and the hype around it, the exclusivity of the Birkin. Oh, I'm, wow, I got offered it, like, wow. You know, I'm a part of me is still a little bit of a sucker for that kind of marketing, and I think Hermes is a brand who is actually probably done it the most smart way, because they're one of the brands that the hype is there, but it also has a very cult following. But the hype is there only for two bags, basically, the Birkin and the Kelly. And there are other bags, yeah, they're popular, but they have so many other categories to offer which don't have the same kind of hype around them, which can be a good thing and a bad thing, because I do sometimes think when hype is surrounding something, it almost ruins the design of it. It actually ruins the appeal of it, because it becomes a trend. And when something becomes a trend, then it also becomes out of trend. So I think the thing with hype marketing and creating this big desire, or having these collaborations, or saying, this is going to be a drop for this and it's not going to come out again, but then it does, it does affect the overall image of the brand, and you can't rely on hype marketing long term. I think you can do it for a short amount of time, and definitely you can do it every now and then. But if it's if it's the whole basis of your brand, like a brand like Supreme, like basically everything is hyped, then it's not going to work long term, and people are going to lose interest. And that once that becomes not hyped anymore, you're going to lose a lot of the customers who are buying from you. Because to be honest, a lot of people who buy Birkins and Kellys, they don't actually care about Hermes. They don't know anything about Hermes, but they're buying into the hype. Same with the Supreme t-shirts. A lot of people buy those t-shirts not because they're a skater boy. It's because they want to buy something that is hyped and that says Supreme and that they saw on Kanye West or Kay Moss or whoever. And that's the thing, guys. I think when it comes to fashion, you have to stay true to yourself, and you have to sometimes think, am I just getting sucked into hype? Am I just going with, the masses? Because it reaches a point where if you are just going with what's hyped and what's cool at the time, well, it's not going to be cool long term. So you might find yourself being disappointed later down the line. So a lot of people are realizing that too, and that's when I think hype marketing doesn't work in this day and age as much as it used to. Because the thing is, there's always something new coming out. There's always going to be a new collection, and we're not silly anymore. We know these things are not worth the money, and we have to be careful about what we really want to invest our money into. So guys, let me know, are you still sucked into hype and marketing in that sense of, there's a new collection coming out and you have to hop onto it now? Or do you like to take things slow with luxury now, and fashion in general? Are you okay to buy things that are not cool anymore? Or are you somebody who always likes to follow the latest trends? Because, yeah, I would say for me, as I've gotten older, I realized that, if something is limited edition, it doesn't really mean much. There's always going to be another limited edition thing coming out. A part of me is a little bit sucked into the latest Louis Vuitton Takashi Murakami collection that's going to be coming out next year. There's rumors that there's going to be a new multicolor line. I am a bit sucked into that, and I do have FOMO, so I'm not immune to that kind of thing. But yeah, I do think that you can't base your whole brand on hype marketing. You need to kind of use that card sparingly, and you also have to have a loyal fan base, for the long term, because once you lose that fan base and once you lose the hype, well, then the brand's gonna lose value altogether. So anyways, that was just some of my blabby thoughts today about that. Let me know what you think about the future of these luxury brands as well. Do you think that Luxottica is going to buy Burberry next? Because I know that they own they stock their sunglasses as well in their stores. And yeah, it's been interesting to see how the brand has changed over the last 6 months, and they just got a new CEO as well. So there's a lot happening in fashion. Even Gucci, I mean, their sales have dropped a lot as well. Yeah, so I'll talk to you guys on my next video. Bye!